Hi family, I hope you're good. Welcome back to my channel, a space where we are just trying to learn new habits in pursuit of dying empty, having fulfilled all our potential. So today we're talking balance. What is it? Can it be achieved or can it not be achieved? So let's see. So balance is obviously being able to evenly distribute things in your life. So that means being able to just pour into different buckets of your life equally, be achieved. Personally, I've never seen anyone who has achieved a significant level of success without being obsessive or focusing too much on the thing for them to achieve some level of success. However, we have to acknowledge that it's not sustainable because that comes at the expense of other things not being fed. So for me, it then becomes important to be able to acknowledge the fact that we have a finite amount of time. For example, we all have 24 hours in a day. And in 24 hours, if your to-do list is very long, the reality is you're not going to get to it. So you need to make peace with the fact that you do need to take away some of the things. And how do you then take away with some of those things and still maintain a balance? So you need to be clear then with how you apply yourself. And for me, the answer lies in how do you define yourself. If I define myself as a parent, I need to be there for Khosi. I remember my boss, before I was a parent, my boss had just told me that he recently declined a role that I thought he would be best suited for. And that role was interesting. And he said no, he declined it because he just got into a comfortable state with his children, and he didn't want to disturb that because this role was going to be demanded. At the time, I wasn't a parent, obviously. I didn't get it. I was like, oh my God, if they'd offered me that role, it was a no-brainer. I'd definitely take it. But in hindsight, now I realize that being a parent is how he defined himself. And that's why it was important for him to know that for the majority of the time, he can be able to actually show up when parenting is needed. Where else, if he had taken that role was going to require working on weekends, most weekends. It was going to require long hours, most nights. So that would have meant it would take away from him being a parent. So now I get it. And for him, clearly, he was comfortable with saying, because being a parent in my hierarchy of how I define myself is very high, that means I will have to say no to some of the things so that I can still be able to be a parent, which is what I define myself as. So obviously, as with all things in life, just because you decided, hey, this is how I'm defining myself, it doesn't mean everything is just gonna go smooth. You will be forced sometimes to choose to say, actually, how do I define myself? And do I really define myself and honor, how I define myself? And this is within learning to say no is important. So that means, like the example that I just made, he said no to a role that was probably so great from a career perspective. That's because at the time, parenting was so important. And remember, when you say no, you are honestly then opening yourself up to saying yes to, or hell yes, to things that are really important to you. It's a muscle that needs to be flexed, obviously. In the beginning, saying no becomes hard, especially sometimes when you have not figured out clearly what you want. You run the risk of sometimes saying yes to a lot of things and just being stretched too much. So you need to learn to say no. And where possible, outsource. For example, for me, I know I want to spend time with my family on weekends. So I outsource cleaning. So I have someone who comes to the house and cleans on Friday because I don't want to be slaving away on weekends when it takes away from my time with my family, when I define myself as someone who takes time for their family. We know though that life is not always so smooth. It doesn't mean just because you've defined yourself, you've said no to certain things, that now everything is smooth. There will be times where you have to dial up on certain things. For example, when you are learning a new skill and it's a skill that you believe is really going to help you in future from your career perspective, or for example, if you're trying to get extra money, when you're trying to learn a new job. So there are times where you do have to dial up on certain things or in certain times in your life just so that you can get to a proficient phase. And at that time, that's where the communication with all the relevant components of your life that are also important is important to say. Right now, I need to be pouring more into JAR X because JAR X needs more than JAR Y, obviously. So that happens because if you want a level of success, as I said in the beginning, you are not going to be balanced all the time. So, in conclusion, I believe asking the question around how can you be more balanced is the wrong question. The right question for me is how do you get alignment in your life? And what do I mean by alignment is how are you prioritizing the things that you define yourself on in your life? And how do you ensure that your life then operates from a place in alignment with who you believe you are? That is how you're supposed to be approaching it, because there's never going to be a time where everything is even, but there's always time for you to choose actually who do I define myself. And there are seasons. Remember, some seasons you'd be defining yourself as this more than other season, and in other seasons you might be defining yourself as something different. So own who you are. Own who you are. Thank you so much for watching up until here. Until next time, if you like this type of content, please like and subscribe and share. Until next time, thank you.